So hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Edwin Mwangimbiu. I am a mechatronics engineer, I am a businessman, but most importantly, I am an onion and cabbage farmer. So welcome to my farm. My farm is located in Chaka area in Nyeri County, near Milimani area. So let's get started. So let me explain to you the very basic concept of planting the onion seeds in the nursery. So first you need to prepare the beds. As you can see here, the beds need to be raised. The reason for raising the beds is to prevent water from washing away the seeds once you plant them into the nursery bed. So as you can see, the furrows are well placed, parallel to each other. They should be well spaced. So you simply pour the seeds. Don't over pour the seeds into each furrow. You need to space the seeds from each other. Then add manure. You can use manure to cover the seeds, or you can mix the manure with the topsoil. Then you cover with it. Then you cover the seeds with it. Currently, this is the seeds that I've planted on my farm. Africa Red, very good quality, not very expensive. So yes, as you can see how they are performing in the seed bed. So okay, as you can see, this is how you plant on the seed bed. First, you need to do furrows, longitudinal furrows, which are parallel to each other. They should be well spaced. Then you pour the seeds into the furrows after you've poured manure. The manure should be very fine. And then you cover the seeds with the topsoil on the sides of the furrows. As you can see, once you've done with the pouring of the seeds and covering the seeds with the topsoil, the next process is mulching.
Go for it.
Okay, so the next step is simply transplanting the onions from the nursery bed. So right here we are using drip irrigation. Drip irrigation is the best form of irrigation. So as you can see here in the drips, for onion farming, the spacing is 15 centimeters. And these drips, they are standard. Already, from one driplet to another, it's already 15 centimeters. So the reason we are using 15 centimeters is to provide enough space for the onions to bulge out. So one of the advantages of using drip irrigation is that it makes the soil soft enough. So it reduces constriction of the onions by the soil. Okay.
The weeding part of it, why you don't? Okay, manure.
So once you prepare the beds, onto the main farm, the first step should be to pour manure onto the beds. So the manure will be used as food by the onions for the 3 months that the onions will be onto the main farm. So once you do that, you apply the drip irrigation. From then on, the only thing you need to work on is pouring fertilizer. So we do DAP during planting. Then for top dressing, we'll use NPK and CAN. So the best time to apply the fertilizer for the CAN and NPK is once you're doing weeding, because when you remove the weeds, you've provided aeration onto the soil. So the onions can now receive the fertilizer freely.
And then the whole thing of weeding and why you weed and you don't use the weeding other methods.
So the best method we use in weeding is simply removing the weeds by hand, or by a panga as we call it. So the reason we do that is to ensure that the onions are not damaged by the other weeding process. So preferably we don't use any is the weeds, herbicides. So preferably we don't use any herbicides. The main reason for this is that the onions are still delicate during planting stage, and it may corrode the onion leaves. And okay, so during the transplanting season, what you simply do is that you take every seedling and you just put it where the drips are pouring water. So you put one seedling on one side of the drip and the other seedling on the other side of the drip, as you can see here. So you place them parallel to each other. So the spacing, as I said, is 15 centimeters from one onion to another, from one onion seedling to another. Higher.
This vlog is going to be fun.
So the next step will be to transplant the onion seedlings onto the main farm. So just like we did in the nursery bed, we must prepare the beds on the main farm. So the reason we prepare the beds is so that we can prevent the seedlings from being washed away by any rainwater. So as you can see, the beds are raised to a certain degree. From then on, we apply the drips. So the main form of irrigation we do here is drip irrigation. So as you can see here,
it's powered by
the spacing from one driplet to another is 15 centimeters, which is ideal for onion farming. So you will simply uproot the onion seedlings from the nursery bed and you bring them onto the main farm. You will place each onion seedling parallel to each other along the drips where the driplets are pouring water, as you can see here. So this is one onion seedling, this is another. So they've been placed parallel to each other along the drip. So once you do this, you apply DAP fertilizer. So DAP fertilizer is the best fertilizer during transplanting.
At what rate do you apply DAP fertilizer? 50 kilograms per acre.
So in 1 acre, you may use about 50 kilograms for DAP fertilizer. Then you apply the manure. The manure should be fine. Don't pour big blocks of manure because it may inhibit the onion seedlings from growing. So once you've done the transplanting, you'll be pouring water about 3 weeks, about 3 times a week. Then, through visual inspection, you should be checking the beds as you regulate the weeds. So the best form of weeding will be to simply uprooting the weeds by hand or by panga, as we commonly name it. So the main reason why we do this is to prevent the onion seedlings from being damaged or from being removed from the soil. So once you do weeding, you apply CAN and NPK. You mix CAN and NPK together.
After how long?
During weed, after weeding.
After weeding?
Yeah, it's in the visual inspection.
Yeah.
So after weeding, you will apply CAN and NPK. The reason we apply fertilizer after weeding is because the soil has been properly aerated. So the onion seedlings can now receive the fertilizer freely. So
your drip irrigation powered by your drip irrigation?
So our drip irrigation, as you can see there, it's powered by the main tanks, which are fed by a borehole. So the borehole uses solar power to pump water into the main tanks. Then we supply the drips with water by PVC pipes. Right here we are using 1.5 inch in diameter pipes. The reason we do this is so that the drips can have enough pressure.
Let's continue talking. You're done.
So on to the growth stage. One of the main problems that we farmers face are pests and diseases. So one of the most common pests that hinder onion farming are the thrips and aphids. So for a farmer, you need to practice visual inspection on a regular basis on your onion seedlings. So the drips, when you inspect them, they're usually white, some very small white insects, which are normally found at the bottom part of the seedling. So the main herbicide we use on drips,
Pesticide.
or the main pesticide we use on drips, is thunder. So thunder can be commonly found in your local agrovets, which are very cheap. They go for about 300 shillings per quarter acre. So you simply apply the thunder maybe once per 2 weeks, the drips will be over. So one very important factor that new beginning farmers should know that is that the drips should be elevated from the ground, as you can see here. So they should be tight from one end to the other end. So the reason we keep the drips elevated is to ensure that the holes of the driplets, they're not clogged with mud. So as you can see here, these onions are nearing harvesting period. They are well bulbed. The leaflets are well maintained by applying Redomil and Mistral, and also the drips, they are not very present. So yes, so these onions are maybe 3 months now. They have left maybe a week, they'll be harvested. Okay, so how long should the onions seedlings take in the main farm? So the onions should take 3 months on the main farm. So how do you know the onions are ready? So when the onions are ready, as you can see here, the leaflets, they get dried up. And also you can see that the onion bulb is mature enough. So the reason they dry up is so that the water from the leaflets can come down to the bulb so that it can properly mature and bulge. So during this period, you should not apply water to the onion seedling, because when you apply water onto the onion seedling, it may lead it to rotting. So the size of the bulb will reflect on how much you fed your onion seedling. So if your bulbs are very big, it means that you've properly fed the onion seedling. So if the bulbs are not really big, like this one, it means that the onion seedling was not properly fed when on the nursery bed or on the main farm. So the sizes are very important because different clients, they require different sizes. Like in Kenya, the people who sell in the market, they prefer the medium-sized ones because it's more profitable to them. The people who deal with the hotels and such, they prefer the large size ones because they will not hinder them in cutting a lot of onions. Just pick one, cut it, and it serves the whole meal. So when the onion seedling has properly matured, so during harvesting period, what we simply do is simply uproot the onion bulb like this. You simply hold the leaflets and uproot it. So as you can see, this one is ready. It has been well managed, it has been properly fed, and now it can go into the kitchen.
Nice.
So this one is also ready. So once you uproot the onions, then now the final step is to cut the leaflets at this point. As you can see what I've done here. Then once you do this, you need to place the onions somewhere where they can dry out so that they don't rot when they're in the nets. So once you cut out the leaflets, you need to keep the onions in a place where they dry out so that all this water, which cannot dry out, The reason we do this is to prevent the onions from rotting. Okay, so once you've done with harvesting of the onions and drying them well, the next process is simply packaging. So we use nets. These are the types of nets we use for packaging. So what you do is simply you take the onions, you place them in the package, the net. Once you do this, you weigh out the package, you simply transport it now to the market.
How many kgs is the net?
Okay, so nets differ. Like this one, this is a 30 kg net. So there are also 50 kg nets. We have also 70 kg nets. So they differ with size, depending on the client. Okay, so one common question we usually get as farmers is, which is the best time or which is the best season to perform onion farming? So I want to tell people out there is that there's no best season. It's more of gambling. You just gamble the season. One time you're planting the onions, the prices are favorable. The other time the prices are poor. So yeah, I don't think there's anything like a good season to plant onions. You just do your thing.
So where do you sell?
So our greatest market is in Nairobi. We normally supply people with hotels or just the common markets. Yeah.
What are your common markets?
The common market is the Mama Soko, the Mama Mboga. Yeah, those are actually our biggest clients. And we perform our business on delivery.
So your last remarks as we wrap up.
Also, you can mention that how much, let's say, the harvest that you're having the next week,
Okay.
you may remove this much,
Okay.
and then your remarks.
So next week we have another harvest. Maybe we might get anything between 2 to 3 tons of onions. So on the normal side, 1 acre may give you about 10,000 to 12,000 kilos, depending on how big your onions are, because we sell our onions in kilos.
Say that again. You're shaking the camera. You're doing this, and the camera's going
Nimeongelea nini?
from the him. Don't move yourself. No reaction.
Okay, niko naongelea nini?
You start from the 2 tons of the onions.
Okay.